You have a structure, a static structure that there's no motion in that. And you can have lots of parts at different angles, and trying to assemble that would be really painful. And Onshape makes this very easy to do by just building it in the part studio. And when you bring it into the assembly, you bring it in rigid. So there's no motion on anything. It's all fully defined. And if you make any changes to the part studio, you add parts, you remove parts, you modify parts, they all completely update.
That's nice.
It's really smart.
Yeah.
Because if you had to bring all those in and assemble them, it'd be a pain. There is a drawback.
Moving?
Are we supposed to guess what it is?
Yeah.
The bill of materials.
Interesting.
Are you familiar with bill of materials?
yeah.
Right? So when you build stuff in a part studio, if you're building your chime machine, you're going to show all 4 legs that are all the same length.
Right.
Right? You're not going
But now you're building.
You're not going to build one and then assemble 4 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to build your whole static structure. And so if you have a lot of duplicate parts, that does not show up in the bill of materials.
Oh.
Do you think that's like a bug, or do you think?
No, I don't know that there's a way to capture that yet.
So are you saying, like, let's say you have a part studio and you have 4 legs that are maybe their own individual parts, but the same shape.
Exactly.
Will that show up as 4 individual parts or just one? And it can't rectify those as the same.
So I think if there's a tool called frames. So you can pick a cross section and tell it how to go, and they'll give you a cut list.
Yeah.
And I think that's one way to approach it, is it would list how many parts you need and what lengths to cut to. But yeah, I don't yet see a way to get into a bill of materials where you have identical parts that have different part names captured.
Because when you, like in a part studio, if you were to mirror a part, it creates a new one. It's not really...
Correct.
Once it's been mirrored, it's no longer linked, correct?
Right. Every geometry you make that has some gap between it and something else, or even if it doesn't have a gap and you tell it to be a different part, right? It's tracked as its own part. So one of the things I love about Onshape, and they're not paying me to say all this.
But by the way, Onshape, if you want to sponsor us, hit us up.
Right on. And you probably know more about this than Ben. You probably know more about this than anyone I know, is the feature scripting. And that is another reason I like Onshape over some other ones, is it's open source to everybody to make public documents that you can use. So maybe someone out there has found a way to identify things that have the same mass, the same moments of inertia, the same... Anything that looks like a duck,
sort of in a roundabout way, go and figure out which parts are the same.
Maybe they can make a custom table
That would
that
make
captures parts with the same characteristics.
I think like maybe a long-term goal for Onshape to work on is instead of needing to have a sort of a roundabout way of doing it, figure out, like, if I'm maybe extruding 4 squares into 4 different posts, maybe capture that as, okay, it's one extrude, they're all the same distance, these parts should be counted as the same. Or if I'm revolving a part into multiple things, it should be able to figure out these are supposed to be the same thing,
or an option to pull things together.
But then the problem is that now, since after this feature has been computed and these parts are no longer linked, now let's say you modify one of the parts, now that breaks. So it's tough.
Well, I'd want it to break. I wouldn't want to have a part different, but still capture.
Yes, but maybe if they go with what I said earlier, and okay, you do an extrude, you have 4 different things, and it captures us together, they need to now check if you ever modify a part, it needs to break that, which it should, but they need to make sure that it does. So there's some edge cases there that make it tough.